welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's your boy Rob. Hope everyone's doing good out there. Thank you for tuning in, whether you're watching on our YouTube channel, the Flame Entertainment and Sports, or whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other podcast platform that you use. We appreciate you tuning into this episode. It's going to be a fun one today. I'm going to be starting off, as always, in the entertainment world with Dancing with the Stars, which, of course, we cover here every single week. And, this past Tuesday, we had a great Halloween episode, Dancing with the Stars, a lot of great dances, but also some controversy, as there's been, with the judging this season. And, there's going to be a lot of talk about with that besides, the scores and, how each couple did. There's going to be some judge talk on here as well. And then, that's really going to be our topic today in the entertainment world, because with that said, for all you sports fans, we have a jam-packed episode for you all. We're going to be talking some college football. It's going to be our first, sport we dive into in the sports world today. Have a very special guest, one of my best friends. His name is Paul. For those of you who have listened to The Flame in the past, you may have heard his voice on here. We had him on 2022. We had him on that season, at least I want to say 3 or 4 times. And it was always a great time. And he's that person I go to, for everything college football. So I think all you college football fans, you're really going to enjoy, our talk today with Paul. And we get into some conference play, we get into some Heisman talk, and we finish off with what we call the parlay. He gives 3 or 4 picks in the college football world. We have an over, we have a couple of games that he likes, a couple underdogs that he's taking this weekend, and it was a fun time. Then I'll dive into, of course, the Miami Dolphins, as we suffer a heartbreaking loss, a 1-point loss to the Arizona Cardinals at home. We fought a 2-5 on the year, and the tough season continues. Obviously, it was great. Tua came back, and now that was an amazing part. But yeah, unfortunately, the last play of the game, Arizona kicks a field goal and sends us home with another loss. And that's what we'll cover today in the sports world. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Like I said, it's a jam-packed one because me and Paul, we go on for I believe over an hour in college football. So it was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to keep up with us on social media, on Instagram, at TikTok, at @theflame_ES. Share this with any friends or family you have that you think will enjoy any of these topics on today's show. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for tuning in. Now let's get into some topics, starting off in the entertainment world with our beloved Dancing with the Stars. Okay, guys, it's time once again for Dancing with the Stars talk here on the Flame Entertainment and Sports. I hope you guys have been enjoying, my recaps of each episode for season 33 of Dancing with the Stars. It's a show that means a lot to me, as I've mentioned here, and it's just a true blessing. And I thank God that I'm able to cover this show on my own podcast. I think it's a big blessing, so just thankful for that. And yeah, like I said, I just hope you guys have been enjoying it. If any of you want to come on, if you're a big fan of the show, you want to give your thoughts on one of these episodes, more than welcome. You let me know. We'd love to have you on, give your thoughts on here on each couple, and it'll be a fun time. With that said, this week, obviously, we have Halloween tonight, Thursday night. Not Thursday night, on Thursday today when this episode is out. And so it's a Halloween themed episode of Dancing with the Stars. Next week we will not have an episode due to the election, being on Tuesday. So the following week they'll have I believe 2 episodes, and including their 500th episode, which should be a great time. But with that said, yeah, this is a great Halloween episode. It was a classic 3-judge format. Carrie and Inaba, Derek Huff, and Bruno Tonioli. It was, a lot of great dances, a lot of shaky dances. I would say overall, as to how the season has gone, it was a kind of an up and down episode in terms of the actual competition itself, in terms of how these couples performed. Because I feel a lot of them have done so great from the beginning that at this point our expectations may be a little too high. And with that said, it wasn't like there wasn't any bad dances. It was just like they've been so damn good that I don't think this was like the best quality of dance, if that makes sense. But it was a great one. And since the competition is getting shorter and they got to fill up the time slot, what they added in this week after the individual couples performed was a dance off. They had we had 6 couples left, so it was 3 battles of 2-on-2. 2 couples dancing at the same time, and the judges picked the winners of each dance off there, and that was a fun time to watch as well. Now, with that said, our first couple of the night, let me open up here, because from now on, I want to make sure to say the right style of dance and all that stuff, Okay, so the first couple of the night, we had Ilona and Alan, obviously a couple who, you think of what they've done from night one to now, and it's just astonishing and so impressive to see the growth, right? That Allen and Ilona have had, and it's just a lot of credit goes to Ilona for working hard, never giving up, and continuing to work hard. And obviously, it goes to Allen as well for obviously being a great coach and being supportive and patient and allowing Ilona to transform into a dancer, right? So I think it's been a great time watching this couple progress positively, right, on this season of Dancing with the Stars. They danced a tango to Psycho Killer by Miley Cyrus, one of my favorites, Miley. But Ilona and Allen for this dance, I would say not their best performance of the season, not their worst either. But I wasn't really impressed. Obviously, as I always say, like, I'm not a dancing expert here, so perhaps I had a dancing person here that maybe they think the opposite of me. I'm not really sure. But my thoughts on this dance as a whole is that I feel it was more of a show rather than actual dance content, if that makes sense. I just felt there wasn't as much dancing as there should be. At the end of the day, the show is all about dancing, of course, Dancing with the Stars. So I just wanted a little more, dance rather than just a show. With that said, I gave this couple my lowest score of the night, and I believe, and they received the lowest score of the night from the judges. So I gave Ilona and Allen a 21, which equivalates to 3 sevens, and they received 3 eights from the judges, a 24, which honestly, not gonna lie, I was like shocked by, but at the same time I wasn't, because the judging score, the way the judges have been scoring this season has been a little shady when you think about it. There's nothing against the couples whatsoever. At the end of the day, it's the judges' decisions, right? But yeah, so I gave, like I said, a 21 to them. They got a 24. Then we moved on to Dwight and Daniela, who have also been a couple that have improved, who have gotten better from day one. We've seen Dwight, right, blossoming in front of our eyes as a dancer week in and week out. And obviously Daniela, one of the best pros, right, in the history of the show. And she's been on, 4 or 5 years. It's incredible what Daniela's been able to do on this show and really perfect what a pro should be on Dancing with the Stars. With that said, Dwight and Daniela, they danced a contemporary dance to Ring Around the Rosie by District 78 featuring Natalia Lilly. And Ring Around the Rosie, obviously, it goes with the Halloween theme, so that was pretty cool. I thought this was a good dance from Dwight and Daniela. I think the last, 3 shows in a row, they've gotten better. It wasn't my favorite dance, of the season or anything like that, but I just see the improvement in this couple, and I think that's what each couple should be thriving to do, right? Each week that they're in this competition, just looking to improve little by little. And at the end of it, if you're there at the end, you always have a chance to win that mirror ball. But you shouldn't be focusing on the mirror ball and the Len Goodman mirror ball each week. You should just be focusing on that 1 week at a time. And I think you see the mentality has changed, right, for Dwight and Daniela. With that said, I gave them a 23. And they received a 28 from the judges. So obviously the judges thought very highly. And actually, Carrie gave out the first 10 of the season to Dwight and Daniela. Then following Dwight and Daniela, we had arguably the best couple in this competition, Danny Amendola and Whitney Carson. And once again, it was another incredible dance. They danced an Argentine tango to Poison by Raven, I think it's called. I don't know how to pronounce that band's name, but Poison. An Argentine tango, and it was just another elite performance, in my opinion, by Danny and Whitney. Just a tremendous job once again. I gave them a 29 out of 30. They received a 28. So obviously for that one, me and the judges are basically on the same page. I don't know how they received the same score. I'm not going to lie. It's Dwight and Daniela, in my personal opinion. I don't know how that could happen. But hey, at the end of the day, I can't control that. And, it was another great performance. And this couple just continues to get better and better each week. After them, we had Jen and Sasha, who's a couple who's been, up and down. I think my expectations may have been a little too high coming into this season for Jen Tran and Sasha Farber. With that said, they've had their ups and downs. They've had their weeks where you're like, oh damn, these people could be a dark horse, and then they've had their weeks where you're like, they're kind of middle of the pack. Never bad, but some performances, this one to me was kind of those, like middle of the road, middle of the pack type of performances. I didn't mention the style of dance that they did. Okay, so Jen and Sasha did a contemporary. I have a statement to make. The song they picked, in my opinion, the best song that a couple's ever danced to on Dancing with the Stars. They danced to Vampire by Olivia Rodrigo, who's my favorite singer. For those of you watching here on YouTube, or if I post this clip on social media, you see right behind me, I have a picture right there under the flame logo right there of Olivia. in one of her concerts on the Guts World Tour. So I was jamming out to that Vampire, during Jen and Sasha's performance. But that said, I gave them a 23. They received a 28 from the judges, so another super high score. They're tied with Dwight and Daniela and tied with Danny and Whitney. I have no idea how how Dwight and Jen could be tied with Danny and Whitney. Doesn't really make sense to me, but as I've said, I don't control this. It is what it is. And the following couple, another couple that's arguably the best on this season, Joey and Jenna. They've been elite week in and week out. I gave them a 28. They received a 29 from the judges. Jenna and Joey, I love every one of their performances. Like, Jenna's just a complete superstar. I don't know how you can't watch her, how you can't enjoy watching her, even if you're not a dancing fan or anything. Like, she's just a joy to watch every single week. And then Joey just continues to get better and better, looking more and more like a dancer each and every week. And they danced an Argentine tango to Rama Lama Bang Bang by Roisin Murphy. I hope I pronounced that right. And yeah, just nothing else to say about this couple. Another elite performance, to put it plain and simple. Then we moved on to Steven and Riley, who have been an interesting couple on this season. I feel most of their dances have been really good. They haven't had, I don't believe that elite performance, but they've been good enough that you're like, okay, these people have a shot, and as long as they keep getting better, they can have a shot at the end there, right? And I think this was another performance in the right direction, improving positively upwards. You know what I'm saying? And with that said, Steven and Riley, they danced a contemporary dance to I Ran So Far Away by Hidden Citizens. And yeah, it was amazing. Obviously, Steven was playing a scary character. It's a Halloween episode. We always see that smiley side of him every single episode. It was cool to see him in serious and in character the whole show. I thought that was really nice to see. And yeah, another nice performance by Steven and Riley. After them was my personal favorite performance of the night by arguably the best couple in this competition. I know I've said that 3 times now, but they've been arguably the best from the beginning, Chandler and Brandon. I think this was an incredible dance. They did a Viennese waltz to Secret by Denmark and Winter, and I was just blown away. This couple blows us away each and every week, but this dance specifically, in my opinion, was their best dance to date. I gave them a perfect 30 out of 30. They got a 29 from the judges. Now let's talk a little bit before we move on to the dance-off, because that was the final individual couple of the night. Now let's talk a little bit about the scoring. Carrie Ann, look, she's been a judge from season 1. We all love her. You're always gonna have that nostalgia. Obviously, we had Carrie Ann, Len, and Bruno for how many years? Obviously, Len fortunately has passed away. We still have Bruno, have Carrie Ann, and of course Derek. He's been added in the later years, but Carrie Ann this season, I haven't really called it out here on the podcast, but I think this episode, I gotta call it out a little bit. What she's been doing with the scoring this season, in my opinion, has been disrespect to Len Goodman and to dancing critics and experts around the world, because everyone's been talking about it. She's been scoring so high every single week. Most of the times, the way she describes how she feels about a dance does not match anywhere close to what she actually scores for the couple. And this week specifically, she went crazy. She gave every single person a 10 except Ilona and Alan, which I understood. And then with Chandler and Brandon, she decided to get all opinionated and critical. That was the best dance of the night. You could see it. Derek, that was his favorite dance. Bruno, that was his favorite dance. Derek and Bruno gave 10s to Chandler, and then Carrie Ann, all of a sudden, she gave a 9 to Chandler. And I think that's absolute BS. Like, I'm not here to cause anything, or there's nothing personal against Carrie Ann. I don't know her. I'm not trying to be personal. But at the end of the day, and everything, right? There's a certain line that you cross where, like, enough is enough, if that makes sense. And I feel like this point is enough. That was complete BS. She decided to, like I said, give her opinions and be all critical, right? Chandler, who's been arguably the best dancer in season 33 of Dancing with the Stars. And then for all the other couples, you're all like happy-go-lucky, getting on the counter. It's super strange. I don't understand it whatsoever. I don't know if something's going on with Carrie Ann. Perhaps she's losing it. Perhaps it's time for her to move on. Or I don't know if something's going on behind the scenes where they're, forcing her to give higher scores, or she's getting paid a bonus for giving a certain amount of higher scores. At this point, all those conspiracies have to be put out there, because at this point, it makes absolutely no sense the way she's scoring. And after this episode, it was, like I said, a complete disrespect to to all those who have judged on this show, and all those who want to judge on this show and have their podcasts, like Cheryl Burke, for example. I think she'd be a great judge on this show. She has an amazing podcast where she covers the show, does an incredible job. And the fact that Cheryl, you hear her critiques on her podcast, they're way better than what Carrie Ann's doing on here. It just speaks volumes, and I just had to call it out because, like I said, enough is enough. With that said, we'll move on from the judging talk. Now we'll move on to the dance-off. The dance-off battle of the night was between Dwight and Daniela and Ilona and Alan. It was very entertaining. Dwight and Daniela were able to have that same energy from start to go. Ilona and Alan, I would say, their energy was kind of up and down here and there, kind of stopping, but Dwight and Daniela kept going, and ultimately they won that dance-off. Then we had Jen and Sasha versus Steven and Riley. This was, in my opinion, the toughest battle of the night. Not going into it, I didn't expect that, but honestly, I was 50-50. I ended up giving the nod to Steven and Riley, but the judges picked Jenna and Sasha. Then our final battle of the night was between Danny and Whitney and Joey and Jenna. I was super excited for this. It was amazing. These are probably, I would say, my two favorite couples on this season of the show. And they both did an amazing job. I did go with Joey and Jenna. However, I felt their performance was more elite and consistent. And that's who the judges picked as well. And then we move on to, another thing. You might be like, wait, why didn't Chandler and Brandon? Because last week they had the highest scores, so they were excluded. They didn't have to participate in the dance-off. With that said, now we move on to the eliminated couple of the night. My prediction was Dwight and Daniela and Jen and Sasha are the ones that ended up being eliminated. Unfortunately, it's funny because that whole day on Tuesday, I was predicting Jen and Sasha. And then all of a sudden, that final commercial break, right before the eliminations are announced, for some reason in my gut, I felt Dwight and Daniela. But yeah, Jen and Sasha go home. I think we're at a point now with Jen and Sasha that this season has just been incredible. So many great couples. Perhaps on other seasons, easily, Jen and Sasha could have been in the Final Four. But this season is just so damn competitive, and these celebrities and pros are doing such a tremendous job that, we're just at that point now where the good couples are just going to start heading home because it's just such a deep and competitive competition this season on season 33 of the show. And yeah, I enjoyed watching I enjoyed watching Jen and Sasha on this season. Wish them all the best. Obviously, they have a great friendship now. It's amazing to see. And another great episode of Dancing with the Stars. Just a reminder once again, there will be no episode next week due to the election being that night. So there'll be no, Dancing with the Stars next week. The following week we'll be back at it with season 33. And hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on Halloween night of season 33 of Dancing with the Stars. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? For this portion of today's episode, we're going to be talking some college football. And I have my first guest on since I've gotten back into the podcast. I think this is episode 8 or 9. And my boy Paul, I've had him on here in the past. For those of you, that have listened to the show in the past, he's great with college football. So I haven't been covering college football. So we finally found a time to bring him on. And yeah, I'm excited to get into some different topics. But yeah, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah, man, it's an honor. Actually, I didn't realize that makes sense, though. I guess I have been the first guest since you were back, but I appreciate it, man. I'm excited to talk. It's been a interesting season. People are comparing it to the 2007 season, which is like blasphemy. But it's been eventful, to say the very least, and I think there's still so much more chaos in front of us. So I'm excited to talk about what's happened and what's in front of, what's left,
Not for sure, man. Yeah, it's definitely been, it's been obviously here in Miami. It's been freaking, the most fun we've had, watching in my lifetime and our lifetime. But
probably since 2017.
Yeah.
Before that, I guess 2001 maybe.
Yeah, but and even 2017, I have great memories of that team. But once we got that first loss in Pitt, it all went downhill. But
I'm in Pitt now, brother.
Yeah, no Pitt. And this year, it feels more stable. I'll always be grateful for that team. But looking back on it, it felt more like a fluke. And this one actually feels like it's gonna be sustainable, if that makes sense. But
Yeah, no, it seems like it's been a dominant performance so far for sure.
Nah, it's
Uh,
been fun. It's been fun. But yeah, with that
Speaking
said,
of this, man,
we'll get into some conference talk. And yeah, speaking of Miami, you could start off, in the ACC. Um, I'll give some quick thoughts, really quick, like on my thoughts on on UM so far. Obviously, everyone knows like the offense, right, has been historic. Cam Ward, he's having a legendary season. Like never had a quarterback like this, at least in my lifetime. I don't want to speak for before I was born and all that stuff, but yeah, he's just I don't know. He's incredible. Like I've told you, Paul. I've told people, when they ask me about Cam Ward, like my favorite thing about him, this guy's always calm and collected. He's never panicking. Let's say he throws the interception. He goes back to the sideline, goes on that, the little iPad. He sees what he messed up in, and he's fine. He gets the team going. You think of the comeback wins we've had, specifically that Cal game. Like, what other? I don't really know how many like quarterbacks would be able to lead a team after you're getting killed across the country. You're undefeated. I feel like most people would panic, but he in that game specifically, he showed like his leadership ability, and that trickles down to the rest of the team. It's not just like him that's calm and collected. Then all of a sudden, you see the whole program now. That's one of the reasons I feel too. It's like this is gonna be sustainable. You have a leader like Cam Ward, like everyone's just gonna learn from him, and even the guys that come after him in the years after, I feel like they're gonna learn from him. But yeah, and then defensively, obviously, that's our weak spot, right? But I'm confident that they're gonna fix it because our defensive coordinator, I think it was last year that he won like defensive coordinator of the year, something like that. Um, so like I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because last year he turned around our defense completely. After so many years, our defense was like garbage, and he came in last year and he literally turned it around. And now we actually, we have a nice defensive line that we're building. I think our weakness really is in the run game. For some reason, a lot of holes open up in the middle of the field. But in the passing game, like I think we're a pretty good pass defense. So I'm not like super worried because it's not like the whole defense is like freaking off. But yeah, those are just some quick thoughts, man. I don't know if you have any thoughts there.
no, UM has been one of the stories of the season so far, and that Cal game we were talking about, I think, wasn't the turning point, but it was probably you know, the marquee game for them so far this season. And some people might be listening to me like, "How?" If I would have told you that at the beginning of the season, you'd be like, "What? Like, how's that possible?" But remember, Cal only had like one loss at that point. I think they were 4 or 5-1, maybe. Game day was there for the first time ever. That game day is probably the best one they've done all season. The energy that they had was unbelievable. I would have never guessed they were at Cal of all places. Like it was like 6 in the morning when the show started. They said people had lined up. Let's say like 24 hours before, and maybe I'm exaggerating, but um, and UM did that cross country trip that so many teams have gotten caught with. They've had a lot of teams have done this cross country trip, like from Rutgers to USC or whatever it is, and they lose because it's hard. These guys, college kids that are traveling thousands and thousands of miles. Um, One of the only other teams I've seen do it successfully is Penn State against USC. Actually, I know it was an overtime game. A lot of people would agree Penn State's much better than USC, but Miami, they rallied, they did what they had to do, and they came out with a win, which was at the end of the day, it's really all that matters. One stat I wanted to share about Miami's offense this year. Right now, they're on track to shatter program record of yards per game on offense this year. Right now, they have 561.
Yeah.
The record is for Miami is 483 yards per game. What year do you think that was, Rob?
Oh man, I'll just say like I'll say 2001.
1990.
Holy crap!
Well,
Wow.
it's been it's correct. That's kind of gross to think about it. But it's 34 years ago, I guess. Um,
Yeah.
34 years ago. So they're doing big things over there. They obviously have a amazing offense. I've told you they have flashes of people are gonna come with the pitchforks and the fire. They have flashes of 2019 LSU there. Their wins aren't as dominant as 2019 LSU's were, but the offense is clearly one of the best, if not the best, in the country, and their defense has been good and okay at times, but opportunistic is what they need to be. I think I've talked to you about this, Rob. just like the LSU defense was. They weren't world stoppers. They had some names on there, but they weren't the best of the best. But they put it together when it mattered. And if UM could do that, I could see them having a run for sure.
I love, yeah, you brought that up to me a couple of weeks ago, and I think, yeah, you described it perfectly. Literally, they just need to, yeah, take advantage of, opportunities, any turnovers, and they just need to, make the play and step up because the offense is so damn dominating that they don't have to worry about being, a complete shutdown defense. So I think that's a great point you make. But
Shout
yeah,
out
no,
Josh for that analogy. Yeah.
yeah, Josh Pate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, and hopefully they're able to be more consistent, to finish the year. Um, but yeah, I want to talk really quickly before we move on to other ACC teams. Like this weekend, Duke comes in. They've been, I think, one of the most shocking teams in college football with Manny Diaz, man. His first year there as a head coach, and this Saturday here at Hard Rock Stadium, we have Duke against Miami, and I think this game might be, I don't know, this is just my prediction. I think it could be the closest game that Miami's been in because I really do feel that factor of Manny Diaz, having that extra chip on his shoulder. Like Miami gave up on him so fast. They didn't give him the resources that they've given Mario. I think he's gonna be hungry and ready to go and ready to spoil, the Hurricanes' undefeated season. So I can't wait. I like Manny Diaz against Mario Cristobal, like the two, Cuban Miami boys here. Like I don't know. I think it's gonna be a friggin' intense ass game. Like I'm like ready for it.
I'm juiced up. Yeah, you're juicing me up for the game right now. I didn't even realize that they were playing this week. Actually, that's got a lot of history behind it. I guess in terms of Miami coaches, but honestly, I don't think it's gonna be close. I think Miami's gonna beat them pretty well. I wonder what the spread on that game is. Miami by 21.5. I don't.
Yeah,
That's a lot of points. I knew they'd beat FSU by that many, but that's a lot. But I think it's fair. I think they're going to beat them soundly. Might be close in the first half, but expect Duke to be like defensive or whatnot. But I think they just have too much. Duke beat Florida State by 7 at home, and you guys wash them at home. So I think that doesn't always translate. Obviously, it's not the end all be all. Games are played on the field, not on paper. But I think you guys are going to handle them pretty nicely. Actually.
for sure. I think we definitely should. You get me? But yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Like yeah, Manny against Mario and Miami. Like
That's interesting. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I'm like excited. And I still love Manny Diaz. I've talked about him on here. Like even when we got rid of him, I know most people were happy. I wasn't happy. I wanted to keep him. I never felt that he got a fair shot here. Like I think he's a obviously we know he is like defensively. He's one of the best, defensive minds I think in college football.
Yeah.
You like even what he did in Penn State right after leaving Miami, like their defense was freaking elite. And then his first year in Duke, and I mean, they're winning. They're doing good. So I'll always be a Manny Diaz fan, but obviously we need Mario and the Canes to step up this Saturday. But yeah, the ACC we were talking before the recording. A lot of interesting teams this year. What is it, SMU, Syracuse. We talked about Duke. Just a couple of teams that I feel people didn't really think of, I guess, like going into the season. And then you have Clemson, that started off with that big loss to Georgia, and then, quietly they've been doing their thing, been, going consistent and getting the job done. So, yeah, like I don't know if you're interested in, giving thoughts on any of those teams or any other team in the ACC.
Yeah, as it stands now, there's only 4 undefeated teams in conference play in the ACC. That's Clemson, Miami, SMU, and Pitt. Actually,
Oh, and Pitts, yeah.
Virginia Tech has 1 loss. Everyone else has 2 losses or more. So I mean, it's pretty wide open. The weird thing though is that some of these teams don't play against each other. Miami doesn't play SMU or Clemson. Pitt plays both SMU and Clemson. Pitt plays SMU this week, Clemson I think a couple weeks after. I'm not sure if SMU and Clemson play each other. Let me double check. They don't. So you could have like 3 of these teams be undefeated, but like in conference play, which is like then what? You know what I mean? Like I don't even want to talk about what the tiebreaker would be. I have a feeling it won't come to that. But I will say like Clemson turned it around after that horrible second half they had against Georgia. They've been consistent. They've showed flashes of a playoff team, of an ACC championship team. SMU has been consistent. They've been one of the talking points in Pitt. Pat Narduzzi out of nowhere with Holstein at the helm. Freshman quarterback lighting it up in Pittsburgh. He's the talk of the town here. They love him. They probably talk about him more than they talk about Russ or Justin Fields. I'll be honest with you. He's a stud. The only person they talk more about is Skeens. Skeens is the god here. But yeah, it's really interesting how it's going to shake out, and it's also interesting to look at this. And if I told you this at the beginning of the season, you'd say, "Where's Florida State? Where's NC State?" Because people thought they'd have a great season too. Like these guys are towards the bottom of conference play. It's crazy how it's hard it is to predict the sport sometimes.
For sure. Not for sure. And not just really quickly, kind of random, but speaking of SMU, another former Miami, staff member is their head coach, Rhett Lashley. Just a random little fact, but their head coach, he was the offensive coordinator here. They're Manny Diaz's first year as
Nice.
the head coach. So like I've been keeping up with him, the last couple of years because his 1 year here as the OC, he was great. Like I was like, damn, this guy's a real deal. And then the following year he became the coach over there. And I mean, over each year that he's been there, SMU just keeps getting better. Now they're in a better conference and they're looking better. I don't know. I think people are finally like damn, they're building something like good over there.
Yeah, we've never seen it in our lifetimes, but I know our dads and uncles, whatever, can attest to them being a dynasty back in the day, in the '80s or whatever, before the Pony Express and all that. I don't know much about that, but I do want to watch the 30 for 30. But you know, they've been pretty absent, but they look like they're building a solid program, and apparently their boosters are unbelievably generous. So if they keep the winning coming, they'll keep the money coming, and that cycle just breeds success with the right person at the top. And it seems like for now they do have that. Um, they got the right keys in place. So happy for them.
I'm so glad you brought up boosters. I was gonna say like a random little, a random fact, but so a couple of their top boosters are actually like the Hunt family, the family that owns the Chiefs.
Oh
Not
yeah,
out of, so just to keep that in mind, that obviously they own the freaking Kansas City Chiefs. So I know they have a son that goes there right now. On the soccer team, their daughter's a cheerleader there. For the football games and stuff. So yeah, those are some significant dollars from the Hunt family going into SMU. Like you said, as long as they keep winning, each year they're just gonna keep getting more resources and more donors are gonna be down, to help out with the NIL and all that stuff. So, I'm glad you brought that part up.
yeah. I'm gonna say the rest of SMU schedule, like I said, is Pitt, then they're Boston College at home, Virginia in Charlottesville, and then Cal at home. So they could run the table. It's possible. It's not going to be easy, but it's very possible. I think Pitt is going to be probably their toughest challenge, and then the rest of them are just kind of like trap games, I guess. But, those are pretty good teams, but nothing that jumps out at you when you look at the paper. They just beat Duke in a really close one by 1 point, but they've been handling business. Their only losses to BYU by 3 points. BYU has proved to be a pretty good team this year.
I'd say that's another team, man. I've been kind of keeping up with them. I'm happy for them, man. That program, they're doing a great job.
The Big 12, yeah, man, yeah.
Damn, like SMU and BYU, literally those two. I've been like just keeping up with their scores because I like to see these schools they never really they haven't been winning anything really in our lifetimes, I guess, and
Yeah.
it's just so cool to see them just rise out of nowhere.
Yeah, BYU's last natty was exactly 40 years ago. It was 1984. I mean,
Wow.
yeah, 40 years ago. Yeah. So
Wow,
it's been a while. Yeah.
for sure. But yeah, man. Any other thing you want to cover in the ACC, or you want to move on to Big Ten? Or...
I'll just give my prediction. I think Clemson and Miami make the ACC championship. I think SMU and Pitt might clip each other's heels. I think Pitt might win this game this week, and then Clemson beats Pitt here. So I think they just both get clipped, and Miami and Clemson ride out the rest of their schedule. It's pretty manageable rest of the schedule for them. So, but let's see. That's like the easy way out, the cop out, but it just seems like the most likely thing. But there's definitely room for chaos.
For sure. I think it'd be pretty cool. We get that rematch with Clemson after 2017 they destroyed us in that conference championship. So that would be pretty freaking like satisfying. To be able to get that opportunity to get some revenge on them.
Yeah, in Charlotte. Let's go.
Yeah. But yeah, now you want to move on to some Big Ten, like some Big
Let's
Ten
do
talk.
Big 12 because I
Big
think
12.
we just
Okay.
talked about UA. I think there's a good transition point. I think
There.
this is like the most fun college football conference to watch. Um, it might not be the conference that has the champion in it or the conference that has the best teams, but it's the most fun to watch because from top to bottom, you have teams that will compete any given Saturday. BYU's at the top with they're number 9. They're 5-0 in conference play. Oklahoma State is at the bottom. They're 5-0 in conference play. But if those two teams played right now, I I would take BYU. But when they played a couple weeks ago, BYU only won by 3 points, and it was in
Wow.
BYU. So I mean, top to bottom, it's hard to predict this conference and like just like the games and how they'll go. Um, but right now we have BYU at the top with Iowa State. Another story out of nowhere. I think they're 8-0 for the or 7-0 for the first time since like the '60s or something like that. Don't quote me on that. And Kansas State with one loss in conference play, and Colorado at 6-2 with one conference loss, still in the hunt. So those are like the 4 teams that have the best chance of making the Big 12 championship. It's just been fun to watch, though.
Nah, it sounds super fun, honestly. And like you said, even with like Oklahoma State, that they're able to, almost beat BYU. That's insane. I guess maybe it
Yeah,
speaks to like it's just a competitive conference. I don't know.
I
Um,
think it really is. Yeah, absolutely.
nah, that's amazing. And now one team to touch on really quick. Obviously, Colorado. For the last couple of years, they've been one of the most like controversial programs. Um, I actually like last year I watched majority of their games, and then this year I watched like their first two, and then I just kind of I don't know. I kind of got turned off a little bit. Like they're like so tricky to judge because obviously you can't deny the talent obviously of Travis Hunter and Shador Sanders, and
Right.
it's an amazing story, right, with Dion coaching and all that, but sometimes like the little antics that Shador does, or like showing up with some chains, and that's not like my style. So then it's like so damn tricky because obviously as a fan of football, right, I want to watch great players play, but at the same time, like it gets to a certain point, like with the off field, antics or showing off type of things, that I just kind of I get away from it because I'm just gonna get pissed off, over and over again. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I know it's kind of random, but what are your like thoughts on that kind of stuff with Colorado?
Yeah, it's funny because I remember when they were playing Nebraska. I think it was a second or third game of the season. I looked at that game. I struggled. I go, I think Nebraska's going to toast these guys, and they did. And after that, I was like, you know, I'm going to stop watching Colorado because I don't think their season obviously isn't over, but any chances they probably had at the playoff are probably shattered, or the Big 12 championship are probably shattered. So I wasn't, I was like, all right, that's that. They have, like you said, a good team. Sometimes it could be a little, obnoxious. I think they do it on purpose too. Like I think those players, they have those personalities. Dion's been like that his entire life. He thrives on that, and power to him. I like watching him, but sometimes I'm like, yeah, can I just turn the channel and watch another team play, and that's fine. But they've really had a surge since then. I don't know what he's been saying in that locker room, but he's really rallied the troops, and they've been really on it since then. They look like a true contender for the Big 12 championship. And if they win that, they're in the playoff no matter what their ranking is, right? They're 23 in the nation right now, but if they could sneak into that game and win it, they're in no matter what. So at the end of the day, you have to respect the progress he's made because I think this is his second season. So 2 seasons ago, they were the worst team in Power 5. It used to be Power 5 back then. They were the worst team by far. And now they're contending for a Power 4 championship. So you got to give credit where credit's due, give him his flowers, despite all the noise and other stuff that comes with it. Um, I think it's been really impressive, to be honest.
For sure, I've been like I said, I haven't been watching them anymore, but I've been seeing their scores, and I've been shocked because something that I've noticed last year, and then the first couple games this year, their O line, right? It looks been like kind of horrible. Like Shador always has to freaking run around. He's getting hit,
Oh,
and then like I see now all of a sudden they've been winning. like I said, I haven't been watching, so I'm guessing that the O line's getting better. I'm not really sure, but definitely it is super impressive. It's like it's kind of mind blowing to see the turnaround they've had this quickly. It's like you don't really see that. No, I love Deion Sanders. Like I'm a fan of him, and I want I want Shador to be great. I like them. It's just sometimes some of those antics are annoying, but like you said too, they're like it's kind of a show. It's not like they may not like necessarily be like show offs. It's just kind of part of the show, and they kind of like it. They like to get people riled up, I guess.
Of course, that's part of their game. So I get it. It's entertaining at the very least.
For sure, not 100%. But yeah, is there any other team here, like in the Big 12, that you have your eyes on, or that's kind of like surprised you this
Yeah,
season?
definitely Iowa State. I mean, Rocco Beck, the quarterback there, has been doing a tremendous job. Um, they have this, they might not have the best strength of schedule, but they've beaten everyone in front of them. They had an impressive win at Iowa early in the season by 1 point. Since then, they've been on a tear. Their last game against UCF was kind of close, which was concerning because UCF has not looked like the best team in the Big 12. But um, Iowa State's interesting. They have three running backs that have rushed for over 300 yards, which is not typical. I feel like you usually have a dual threat back. If not, you have one guy like an overwhelming running back. Someone who just jumps off the page. Someone like Damian Martinez at who's a stud, jumps out the page. But none of these guys really jump out the page, but they just get it done. Their defense is really, really slept on. They've only had one game that they let over like more than 21 points. I don't care who you're playing against. It's pretty impressive. And that one game was against UCF. They have a really good run game, so maybe run defense might not be their forte. I didn't watch that game, but I'm just going off stats here. They're an interesting team to watch, man, because I don't think anyone on planet Earth except the Iowa State diehards out there would have predicted this. But it's a cool story. Let's see. They could win the Big 12, and they might have a bye in the playoff. I mean, that sounds like fun to me. I'm just excited to see how it plays out for them. They have a pretty manageable rest of their schedule, but like we talked about, the Big 12, you can't take any of those games for granted. So they'll have a couple challenges in front of them.
Nah, it's amazing to hear, and like something like you mentioned their run game. I actually like enjoy that from time to time. The teams that like do that run by committee type of thing,
Yeah.
like the Niners don't really do it as much anymore. But I call it like that Kyle Shanahan, type of
Right.
run game. Where the Niners, remember they would there was just years they have like 4 or 5 running backs. They'd all be good, and you're like, what the hell is this? And, like Kyle Shanahan's just with his run offense, whatever the hell it is, he's a genius. But yeah, those teams like you said, they're rare to find though. That doesn't really happen. That's why I only think of Kyle Shanahan. But nah, that sounds like an amazing story, bro. That'd be incredible. If
Yeah.
they're able to win the conference, get that bye and everything. That'd be freaking cool. And just a random little fact. Obviously, I cover entertainment here too. And since we're in the Big 12, BYU, they have this dancer, right? Her aunt is on Dancing with the Stars, which I cover on here every week, and her name is Haley Bills. I just wanted to give her a shout out because I think you're gonna be hearing her name for a long time in the future. She'll probably be on Dancing with the Stars, maybe when she's done with college at BYU. But I just wanted to give that little shout out really quick because I think I think we're gonna be hearing her name for years to come. So I gotta throw in some entertainment talk.
Yeah, you got to mix it in, especially when there's ties there. It's pretty cool.
For sure. But yeah, man. You wanna move on to another conference?
Yeah, we can talk about the Big Ten now, which is also, man, like there's always a couple head turning teams in each of these conferences. I think the number one for the Big Ten would be Indiana, coming out 8-0 for the first time and since like I think the 30s or something like that. Um,
Yeah,
a basketball school, right? It's
yeah.
5-0 in conference play. They're sharing that number one um, spot in the conference right now with Oregon, who's also 5-0. Next would be Penn State at 4-0, and they have a really, really big one this week at home against Ohio State, who had that loss to Oregon a couple weeks ago. Um, it's just been, man, I think this has been definitely the most top heavy conference because the gap between Ohio State and the next team, which is Illinois, seems pretty big, even though Ohio State had a, not the most impressive win against Nebraska last week. I think that Ohio State's loss to Oregon they played great. Like they lost that game, and I didn't think any less of them. I wasn't like, oh, they're frauds, or oh no, they're not built to win it this year. I'm like, if anything, I thought they impressed me a lot. They won on the road, and the hard fought game. Dylan Gabriel just clutched it out, and Dan Lanning is a mastermind. I think they just got a little outclassed, but that doesn't mean that they're not easily one of the best teams in the nation. They could easily win the whole thing this year. They have the roster to do it. They have the coaching staff to do it. Chip Kelly as your offensive coordinator doesn't seem really fair to me, but this isn't a fair league, right? But they're the team that I feel like you can't count them out, especially with the 12-team playoff. You can't count them out yet, even for the Big Ten championship, because Lord knows they've beaten Penn State 7 times in a row. Excuse me, and so I'm really looking forward to that one this week. Everyone's going to be there, game day, and all those people. But yeah.
Now, something that stood out to me, like I didn't watch the Ohio State Oregon game, but the fact that you said like, look, they lost, but I didn't think any less of them. That speaks like volumes to me, and I feel that's something not just in college football, right, but in all sports. Like people need to kind of, I don't know, talk about more. Like let's say even if you lose, like to me, as long as you lose like playing hard, you never gave up, you did all the right things, and it just didn't go in your favor. I think that's completely fine. But I think people are too focused. Win, 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 win. I feel even sometimes like a good. I don't know how to describe it. Sometimes a good loss. I don't know if there's good losses, but let me describe this. A good loss could be better than a crappy win. I don't know if that makes sense. Like down the line, a good loss against a team like Oregon, right, number 1 in the country, could like prepare you instead of winning a game against a friggin' I don't know, a freaking random school, like down the line that's gonna prepare you for that, for the bigger competition, at the end of the season. I don't know that if I described that good, but yeah.
No, I agree 1,000,000% because growing up, it was growing up a Gator fan, SEC was what I cared about the most, and every year that Nick Saban lost a game in the regular season, I was like, oh crap, they're gonna be better now. They're gonna rally around this loss, and he's gonna make sure that they remember it. That they rally around it. I think that's when a team is most dangerous. Though I think to me, and I think he's even said it, those were his best teams, the ones that lost a game. The ones that were undefeated, I never felt too confident about, to be honest with you. But something about losing a close one, just wanting to get that opportunity back badly, really rallies guys. It's just human nature to do that. And it was in Oregon too, same thing could be said about we haven't talked about the SEC yet, but Georgia having a loss, and they're still in front of Penn State, who's undefeated, and Miami. They lost to a great team at their place. They gave them a fight, and they've proven themselves since. They've proven that wasn't a fluke in the rest of the season. They're gonna play as hard as they can, like their type of ball.
Now, speaking of Georgia, we could transition if you want, right, to SEC.
Yeah, I would just say congrats to Indiana, but man, let's see if they can keep it up. Let's see.
No, I'm glad you said that. No, 100%, man. It's like I haven't watched them, but obviously, I know they've been, doing amazing, and that's another team, like I brought up, SMU, BYU, like to see now Indiana too. It's like just amazing, man. Like you can't. I don't know how you can't be happy, for those programs and their fans after, so many years, right? Of, not being the best, right? Not being at the top of college football. I just feel you got to be happy for all those people, man. Because, every program, every team has so many freaking diehard and loyal fans, man, that keep going, keep up with their teams every year. So to see them, finally having this type of season, I think is incredible. Like I said, I don't know how you can't be happy for all those fans,
I agree. But you want to hear, I want to say this is true, but I saw this. You want to hear the craziest stat about Indiana this season?
Okay.
They're the only team that has not trailed at all season.
Holy crap!
They've never trailed all season, and they've been blowing teams out. They dogged Nebraska 56-7. I thought it was one of the most impressive wins I've seen all season. Last week against Washington, they looked real good. Like they had a good first half, and then they got the ball to start the second half. Right, fumbled it. It was a clean fumble. Washington takes over. They score a touchdown and they blank Washington for the rest of the game and start putting it on them. And I was like, man, this is a solid team. Like I don't think this is a fluke. I know they don't have the best strength of schedule, but they have a solid team, and you can't take that from them.
Right, that's incredible. I didn't know that stat at all. That they haven't even trailed.
It's crazy.
What the hell? And they're what? Yeah, going to their ninth game, right?
Yeah,
Yup. What the hell? I've never heard that in my life. I think.
it's
I'm kind of
wild.
like shook. I'm like, what the
Yeah,
hell?
8 games
How
ahead.
did I trail?
Let's see when they
Wow.
face adversity how they react. But so far they haven't had to deal with too much, right?
Wow. Uh, Damn. Sorry, I'm like kind of frozen now, but yeah, that's freaking incredible. Um, yeah, no, definitely, shout out to Indiana and no, and obviously Oregon, kicking ass too. They, that conference is doing amazing, but yeah, you could transition out to the SEC. Obviously, your Gators are in there, and obviously it's been, and as always, an eventful year. Adding obviously Texas is there now, and they've been, amazing. So yeah, what are you like? Let's see. What are your like general thoughts with like how the season's gone? Like with these SEC teams.
It's been weird because I think it's easily the deepest conference. Let me count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams ranked in the SEC. One of them I think shouldn't be. I don't think Missouri should be ranked. Just being honest with and if you're a Missouri fan, you're probably like this guy's a Florida guy. Screw this guy. I don't think you guys should be ranked. A lot of people don't think you guys should be ranked. But regardless, that'd be 7 teams ranked. I think that's and then 4 of them in the top 10. There's been some teams that have surprised me in good ways, other ones in bad ways, I guess. I will just say about the Gators really quick. I think people are quick to say that we suck this year, like, all this crap. I think part of it has to do with just rivalries and whatnot. The fact is, we're 4-3. We probably should have beaten, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but we probably should have beaten Tennessee, and I think they know that at their place. Then they beat Bama there the next week, but if we would have done that, let's just say just that game, which we, whatever, well, Mertz got hurt, Lagway had to step in. We'd be 5-2, with our only losses to number 5, I think Miami, and number 10 A&M. You know, and then the third loss that we do have because it happened was to 7 Tennessee. So I don't think we suck. We just lose to the teams that we're better than. I mean that we lose to the teams that are better than us, and we beat the teams that are we're better than. So I think we're like where we need to be. I think Billy's doing a good job rallying the team. I think he's impressed me this year. I like the way the freshman played against Kentucky. It was unbelievable. We had DJ Lagway had 7 completions for 259 yards. Um, Jaden Ball, run the damn ball. Our freshman running back goes for 5 touchdowns, which ties Tebow and someone else whose name I can't remember for most in a game in program history.
Wow.
So the future's bright. I think we're in a good spot, kind of where I expected us to be. I wish we could have stolen one more before we go into this last stretch of the season. That's going to be like halfway impossible, but that's my little spiel on the Gators. I think a lot of people aren't giving us the credit that we don't need. We don't need the credit, but as long as we know it internally as a fan base and as a program, I think that's all that's needed for now.
100%. Yeah, and I love it. It seems like like you said, like the coach has been able to keep them going. Even after losses, it sounds like they're fighting. And like you said, you guys have lost to three of the top teams, in the country, literally. So like I don't know, like sometimes too people gotta be realistic, and use their brains. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like obviously you want your team to win every game, and we could do it. You gotta be positive, but at the same time you gotta be realistic too. You gotta like, um, yeah. I wish it happened more. It's not just in college football; it's in every fan base, every every sport you could think of. People don't like really use their brains.
I agree. Yeah. And we got some momentum since that UCF game, which we looked fantastic. The Tennessee one was tough, but we bounced back and beat Kentucky by a lot. Kentucky's given a few teams, namely Georgia and Ole Miss, fits. So if we could just keep that momentum going, we have Georgia this Saturday, which is interesting. Hopefully we can use that momentum to our advantage and at least make it close. But I'm looking forward to it.
Not for sure. And no, yeah, you said like Kentucky, right? You guys obviously you said all the numbers and stuff you guys did that game, and you told me about that game, and I was impressed because I know Kentucky's been like competitive. You know, I know they play hard, and they're better than what their record says too. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
for sure. They had one of the best defenses statistically going into that game, and we put 48 on them. So,
With
yeah.
a bunch of freaking freshmen, like, that's
Yes.
freaking insane.
Yeah.
That's even more impressive. You know.
Exactly.
Now one more team. I know like they're not ranked, but obviously probably like a lot of people know I love Nashville. Obviously they had a huge win against Alabama this year. This
Oh,
past Saturday, they almost did it against Texas. Would have been, bro. It would have been freaking insane. It would have been Alabama and Texas. Like
yeah.
I was like keeping up with that game this past Saturday, and I was like, come on, like because you know how much I love Nashville. So yeah, I just wanted to shout out Vanderbilt really quick.
Yeah.
'Cause, look, they're what 5-3, right? Let me
Yeah.
get it
Five
right.
and three.
5-3, 2-2 in the conference.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think they're way better than what people expected. Am I right or not?
No, absolutely. And it's funny because beginning of the season, I was like, oh, I like Virginia Tech this season, and they might make a run for the ACC championship. And then Vanderbilt comes out and beats them, and everyone's like, wow, how embarrassing! What a loss! Like, how could they let that happen? And then Vanderbilt goes on to have one of the best seasons they've ever had in recent memory, at least. Um,
Yeah.
the game against Bama, I remember watching on the couch with my girlfriend Yasmin, and I was too stunned to say anything. I was just like, they just won. They beat Bama, like in like active construction zone. They beat Bama. Like, I don't understand. I don't know how this is possible. I don't care if Nick Saban isn't the coach anymore. They're still Bama, right? And they are. They're still Bama, despite that this not being the best season they've ever had. But they're honestly the talk of the town in the SEC. I think everyone's pretty happy for them. I'm honestly, I never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad we don't play them this year. You know, they have a squad at Pavia is a freaking Diego Pavia. The quarterback has gotten a lot of love over there. They call him Peso Pavia because he loves money. He loves Johnny Manziel. So instead of Money Manziel, they call him Peso Pavia. Uh,
That's hilarious. In
yeah,
Nashville.
I love it. When they said that, I was like, that's perfect.
Nah, yeah, so I'm glad we talked a little Vanderbilt there because yeah, man. Like obviously, you know how much I love Nashville. That night, they beat Alabama. We were texting back and forth, seeing all the videos, and Broadway there, all the honky tonks carry the freaking goalpost through Broadway, bro. Like, oh my god, it looked incredible. So I had to make sure, to mention them here really quick.
Yeah, those fans deserve that. Absolutely. Now, the only thing I'll say is like I wonder what your predictions are for the conference championship. Like, who's gonna make it? Who's gonna win?
Honestly, I don't feel like I have like I'm not gonna lie, I don't have like the proper knowledge to like make these predictions because I haven't really been watching. I've really been only watching like every Miami game, so I don't think it'll be good for me to like do a prediction. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's fine.
But you could go ahead if you want with your prediction.
It's hard, man, because there's a few teams that still have to play each other at the top. Like A&M's next, the only big game they really have left is against Texas, which is going to be a blockbuster, I think. Georgia still has to play Tennessee also. So um, the easy answer, honestly, is saying Texas against Georgia. But I'm really interested to see what Marcel Reed, Texas A&M's backup, does in the weeks to come. If I'm going to pick right now, I'm going to stick with who's at the top. I think Texas A&M's going to knock off Texas, just because they looked real good against LSU. They impressed me a lot, and Georgia looks like the best team in the country, arguably right now, ever since that Bama loss. So I'm going to go with them too, probably Georgia with the edge. But Texas A&M's had a year this year. That Mike Elko, he's the real deal. I know it's only been a year, but he's doing what Jimbo never could, and I'm impressed.
I was gonna say it's super impressive, bro. He got there and like completely turned it around. It
Yep.
looked like a completely different program, and it looks like you think he's been there for like 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's super impressive for sure. And I love that prediction. And I know A&M like I've been like keeping up with their scores, throughout the whole year, and they've just been sneaking around. Like each week they just keep winning, but it's kind of like quiet. I don't think they're getting that like attention that they deserve, but I think a lot of times that's better. Yeah, I don't think you want the media and ESPN to be talking about you. Just keep doing your thing, as long as you're there at the end, that's all that matters. But
Yeah, their quarterback, Connor Wegman. I'm not a huge fan of as a player. Like, I have nothing against him as a person. I don't believe in him as a player. I think he doesn't give them the best chance to win. He can be pretty inconsistent at times, but their only loss was to Notre Dame week 1 by 10 points. It was a pretty close game too. So um, it's not even the worst loss to have. But I think since then they've just turned it up, like you said. And they have a pretty manageable rest of the schedule as they get ready for Texas. So let's see.
nah, sounds cool. Yeah, you want to do your predictions for the other conferences?
No, that's it. I think we did the Power Four. I'm not
Oh,
gonna.
that's right. I'm crazy. I already lost track, but
You're good.
but now if you want to get into some Heisman talk,
Yeah,
you
we
know,
could just. Yeah, yeah.
obviously a couple of great candidates. Obviously Cam Ward here in Miami. Then we got the big bruiser in Boise State, and Dylan Gabriel, obviously, former. Obviously, this was his third school. But I was gonna say former UCF Knight, but he was also a former Sooner. But yeah, those are just a couple of the guys. Obviously, he's doing great in Oregon. But yeah, man, what do overall thoughts and like are you enjoying like this year's Heisman race?
You left out. I think you left out. Maybe you mentioned it. The guy who was the best hunter out of Colorado has the best odds right now on FanDuel.
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
so he those four are the clear favorites. After that, kind of falls off a cliff, and then you have Cade Klubnik, which he's been having a good season. I don't think he's been having a Heisman caliber season, but there's a chance there, I guess. But man, it's been fun to watch. I just think that a Boise State running back Heisman would feed families for generations to come. It would be an awesome story. He's been tearing it up. You know, he's my favorite to make it to win it this year. Right? I don't understand how it's hard to look at his stats and say, yeah, he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't at least deserve to be number 2 at the very least. If you compare his stats to the last 3 Heisman winners through 7 games, those would be Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram, and Reggie Bush. He has almost 1,400 rushing yards on 159 carries and 18 rushing touchdowns. To compare that to his 1,400 yards, Derrick Henry had 900 and 12 rushing touchdowns and about the same amount of carries. Mark Ingram had also 900 with 8 rushing touchdowns. And then Reggie Bush had 800 with 10 rushing touchdowns. But he had 94 carries. So he did it with some less carries. He's on pace to break Barry Sanders' record. And the thing about Ashton Jeanty, the fact that he comes from Boise State makes it harder for him because he just had a 140 rushing yard game last game. And like that dropped his ranking, like for whatever reason, even though against the best team in the country right now, Oregon, he put up like 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, I believe.
yeah.
But people already forgot about that, obviously, right? Because it's Boise State. I think he's honestly earned it up to this point. If it was given today, I think he should be the one to get it. But obviously, there's other big names. We've talked about Cam Ward earlier in this segment. He deserves his flowers too. His stats are unbelievable when you compare him to the last few Heisman winners as well.
Nah, for sure. It is incredible what Jeanty's done though, bro. Like all those numbers, like are freaking mind blowing. The fact that he has 18 touchdowns already at this point in the season, and like you said, what he's done against like, it's not just like he's doing it against random teams. Like literally, you just said that what he did against Oregon. That's freaking mind blowing. And like you said, it does suck that just because he's in Boise State, he's not getting that same love. That if he was like in a bigger name school, but what he's doing is freaking historic. And like you said, when you hear Barry Sanders, you hear Derrick Henry, like Reggie Bush, Mark Ingram, it's like holy crap, you're you're doing things that those guys did. That's legendary. And really quick, obviously I gotta do it because I'm a Dolphin fan, but it's pretty cool. Shout out to Jay Ajayi. That was another great Boise State running back.
Oh, yeah.
Had a couple good years for the Dolphins, but and actually when I look at him, I always think of Jay Ajayi because they kind of have that same hair and everything, and the same body style. But whatever. But yeah, no,
big bruiser backs for sure. Yeah,
he's incredible. Yeah, and you know me. Obviously, you know my style. Like fucking pound the ball and have a consistent defense. That's what I love. So, I mean, bro, that's why I enjoy watching in football. A freaking badass running back like that. That's so impressive to me. And like you said, obviously Cam Ward's been amazing. Um, and like obviously, you look at we talk numbers and all that stuff, but even just the impact he's had right on Miami as a program is like mind blowing. When you look at what we were doing at this point in the year last year compared to now, it's insane. And obviously, he's one guy. I'm not saying it's because of Cam Ward. That doesn't make sense. It's a whole team, but I'm just saying his impact is crazy. It goes even beyond like his numbers. Like you see other guys all of a sudden that are playing around him that look like different players, like in comparison to what they've done in the past at Miami too. So it's just like you put all those factors together, and obviously it's gonna be freaking hard. I think it's always hard, right, for Heisman, but I think this year it's gonna be one of the most competitive battles that we've seen in I don't know a really long time.
I agree. Yeah, sometimes it's like I feel like most of the time there tends to be a pretty clear favorite, or like there's one guy. It's like yeah, like or maybe two guys. It's like it's between one of these two guys for sure. The other guys are there because they are in the spot, you know. But these four guys are having pretty trend like generational seasons. You know, Travis Hunter being that two-way player that he is and balling out. Dylan
Yeah,
Gabriel leading the number one team in the country, and he's been doing it in a crazy good way. He's impressed me a lot. And then same thing with Ward and Jeanty. We already talked about them, but it's hard, you know. Like if you can't give out four Heisman's, you can't give 3, 2. There was only one, so one of them is gonna have to create some separation between now and then. We'll see.
for sure. Nah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. And yeah, like you said, obviously Dylan Gabriel is doing amazing. He's been good, his whole career. He's just gotten better, honestly. But
Absolutely.
even when I remember in the beginning in UCF, even like when he first started playing, like he had some good flashes right
Yeah,
away.
absolutely.
Like he's always been good, and I think obviously sorry, I gotta say another Dolphin reference, kind of, but not. Obviously, he's one of those Hawaiian lefties, right? Just
Right.
like Tua, Tua is one of those trendsetters, and now little by little, you see more, more of these Hawaiians like coming in and doing a good job. So yeah, he's doing great, and like you said, Travis Hunter obviously is. I don't know if we've ever seen a player like him. Like what he's able to do. Like you look at Otani in baseball, you just kind of compare it like what Hunter's doing in college football because he's a freaking superstar on both sides of the ball. It's not like like he's a star corner, but he's whatever an average receiver. Like nah, this
Right.
guy's a freaking superstar. At everything he does. So nah, he's yeah. Every time I watch him, I'm just like mind blown. I don't know how he does it.
He's a monster, absolutely, and it's not. He's not even like a he's a defensive player like let's say a Desmond Howard that will return punts or something like that, uh, right? He's on literally both sides of the ball. He's almost always on the field. I mean, I can't. It's hard to put that into perspective for some people because that doesn't exist in like a lot of sports. Like you said, Otani is like he's an absolute unicorn in that sense. Uh, there's not that many around like that ever in any
For
sport.
sure. Like me, as a big NFL fan that I am, like I can't wait to see what happens with Hunter in the NFL. Like I can't wait to see what coach is able to get him, and how teams are gonna planning on using him right for their NFL teams. I can't wait for that. We'll have that in a couple months, which is mind blowing. But yeah, man. Any other
That's
thoughts?
a good question. Yeah, if you could have him on the Dolphins, but only at one position, what would you want it to be? Or receiver or cornerback?
Okay, right now, honestly, I would say corner. In my opinion, like I don't know if this is in all levels. I'll talk NFL, but in my opinion, like the corner position, it's more essential to have like a superstar at that position
Mhm.
rather than this at receiver. And obviously, I know people might hear that and you're like, "What do you mean? You got you have Tyreek Hill, Waddle, and don't get me wrong, they've had their moment. It's all cool, but but then I think of all the years, with Xavier Howard, where my gosh, he had a I don't know 4 or 5 year run here. He was a shutdown corner, and you can see the difference in the team. Like for example, with Hill and Waddle, don't get me wrong, they'll have their big plays here and there, but it doesn't impact the team as much as a freaking shutdown corner. So yeah, I would prefer to have him as corner here, the Dolphins.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I've heard most. That the teams would probably want him more as a corner than anything.
Yeah,
It's
it's like rare to come by, to find like a superstar freaking corner. Because like, I feel like receiver, like I said, I'm grateful. Like have Hill, Waddle, but like I feel it's kind of easier to find good receivers because I feel like there's a lot more crappy corners than there are superstar corners. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
cornerback is probably the hardest position in football to play, honestly. Yeah, or you could
100%.
argue that there's a that's a whole argument, but I think it's definitely up there. It has to be.
For sure. To me, it's one of the most like essential positions that you have to focus on to have like a championship, caliber team in the NFL. But yeah, man. Before we wrap up the Heisman talk, do you have any final thoughts for the Heisman? All right. Now let's get into our final segment here. We call it the parlay. We haven't done this in a while. We did it. What was it? A couple of years ago. I want to say it was 2022 was the last time. It's just
Yeah,
freaking
man,
my.
it's been a while, honestly.
And honestly, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I remember. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I took like a year off of the podcast, and my final episode, it was I think November or December of 2022, the only episode of the Flame that I've never been on. It was only Paul. He did it by himself. It's in the top three of most listen, like top three most listened to episodes, and like the Flame.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever told you that, but I
I don't think
promise.
you've ever told me that. That's awesome, man.
It's like number two or number three. I'm pretty sure.
That's crazy.
I promise. And like to this day, I'll go and check randomly. Like, oh, let's see the numbers, and like it's still going up.
Hey, that's so interesting, man. That's awesome. That made my day. Seriously, that's so random, but it's so funny, man. But well, that means I have to start a show when I'm done with residency. We'll do that. I'll be as like the sister show of the Flame.
I was gonna say we can have part of the Flame, and yeah, you do your own your own show.
That's funny, man. Nah, it made my day. I don't think you've ever told me that. It's funny, but yeah, the parlay is something that I like doing. I'm not saying I'm a gambler or anything, but I like to check the odds and put a couple together. Usually they're college football based. This one also is. But I feel pretty good about this one, Rob. I haven't told you what it is yet. I kind of wanted to see your reaction in real time. So there's 4 picks. First one, Ohio State, Penn State, over 45.5 points.
Okay.
I was looking at the past 7 times they played, which I told you Ohio State won all 7 of those, and the over it's hit over 45.5 in 5 of those 7 games. Ohio State has a damn good offense. Penn State has a really good defense. Obviously, Ohio State has a great defense too. But so far, it looks like both teams are definitely capable of at least scoring in the mid-20s, and that's all we need. Even
Okay.
if it isn't right, you know what I mean? That when I put it like that, it's like, yeah, like I could see Ohio State winning 28-24 or something like that, right? I think it's gonna be close. I think Ohio State will win. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, but I do think the overs. I think the safer bet here.
Got you. Nah, that's cool. It's funny. I've never I've never placed a bet I've never done an over or under. I know it's kind of random, but for some reason I've never done.
They're fun. Usually, it's not as fun to take the under because then you're like, don't score, don't score, don't score. But
Yeah,
when
don't score.
the over, it's like, oh yeah, score, score, score. So it's kind of makes it a little interesting. But I'm gonna go with that first, and then we talked about this team. I talked about them a lot. Texas A&M at South Carolina. They're the favorite. I think the odds are actually pretty close, but I think A&M is going to pull it out. South Carolina is a tough place to play at, but I think they've lost a little bit of steam, especially the Ole Miss game took the life out of that stadium early. I think Texas A&M with Marshall Reed can do that, and if they do, it'll be a much easier place to play in. I think they could blow them out if they jump on them early enough.
Got you, man. Nah, that's a good one. Obviously, yeah. Like you said, we talked about them on here, and they've been one of the hottest teams in the country.
Absolutely. And then we talked about this game too. Pitt, SMU. You guys might think, oh, this guy's a Pitt homer because he goes to med school at Pitt. Maybe, but I like Pitt plus 7.5. I think it's going to be close. So I don't know why the spread is that long. 7.5 seems reasonable. And SMU's their games against like better teams have been pretty close wins. So I actually really love that number. I think it's a great one to bet.
I was gonna say I wasn't expecting that line. I don't know. I was expecting you to say like maximum like 3.5 or something. Like
I saw it. I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah. Wow. That's wild. Yeah. I don't know. That's wild to think of that line. But I love that pick. I'll probably place a bet on it. I'm not gonna lie. That sounds pretty good.
I think I'm gonna do one on the side for that one by itself.
and you never know. Like I'll even do it now, like today, because like that line will probably go down by kickoff.
I was gonna say you gotta lock it in because this one just moved, but I put it back to where it was, so the odds aren't as good. But Arkansas against Ole Miss, I have Arkansas plus 7.5. This is probably the one that is might be a little toughest, but I could see Arkansas has been playing pretty good lately. Ole Miss has been okay. They haven't been playing their ball, and it's in Arkansas. I think they have a lot of momentum on their side. I think they can keep it close. They might not win, um, but this is a huge game for both coaches, for Lane Kiffin and for Sam Pittman. So I think this is going to be like a sleeper game that I feel like a lot of people, if you're, you know, not as familiar with SEC football, I think this is one to tune into for sure because it's going to
Yeah.
be a good one.
Nah, it sounds fun, and I like hearing about these like type of games. Because obviously you don't hear about these teams. They're not at the top right now. But it's kind of random. But I've actually been shocked with how Ole Miss has turned up. Like at this point in Lane Kiffin's tenure, I thought they'd be like more ahead, if that makes sense. But
You thought they'd be more ahead?
yeah, like at this point in time, I mean, like like more consistent. I don't know how to describe it. Not that I thought they'd be freaking elite, but
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard when you're in the SEC too. They still have a outside shot of making the playoff, but they the game they dropped to Kentucky really derailed them because that they didn't really have room for that to happen. Kentucky played an amazing game, nothing against them, but there's some room for error now with the 12-team playoff. But that one was kind of like a non-negotiable. Couldn't really happen. We'll see. Let's see how they can rally. We have to play them soon, so maybe they'll take it out on us after they take it out on Arkansas. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I think he's done a great job because historically Ole Miss has not really done much. Just on a grand scale, right? They've had good teams and stuff, but I think he was one of the first ones to have a double-digit win season with them, and I don't even know how long.
yeah,
So he, for their standards, I'd say he's doing an amazing job. But I understand it's tough, and you hear him like the buzz about him getting the Florida job and stuff, and that'd be a way easier thing for
for
him
sure.
to do. Like a Mike Elko going from Duke to A&M, what he's done in a year, right? The infrastructure is not there as much, but they're doing a great job. They're doing well building for facilities and stuff. I think he's doing the groundwork for them to be great long term.
Nah, sounds good. And, honestly, I've always like respected him as an offensive mind.
Yeah.
I actually kind of random, but I remember when like he was interviewing with Ole Miss and he was available and stuff. I actually wanted the Dolphins to hire him at that point to be the offensive coordinator.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember that. I just think he's a great offensive mind. But
Yeah, he's great offensively. He's a stud. I have a lot of respect for him too.
for sure. All right, so then okay, so you have Arkansas then, right? You said plus what is it? Plus 7.5?
Plus 7.5. Yep.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. This ran long, but that was fun, man. It was a good time being back. It's been a while. It's been a really good season. So if you haven't tuned in, I recommend you do because it's gonna get even better.
For sure, man. Nah, it was great to have you on again, bro. Nah, it's crazy to think it's been since 2022. Since I didn't do the show last year, really, it's kind of mind blowing. But yeah, no, it was awesome to have you on, man. A lot of fun. Now, hopefully we do it again, and maybe we get you back next week, or if anything, I'll be sure to like recap, the parlay next week, to see how we did with the picks,
That sounds great, man.
Yeah, bro. But nah, thanks again for coming on, and yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed the our first college football segment of the Flame since being back. All right, guys. So for the final topic today in the sports world, we're gonna be talking some Miami Dolphins. As always, hope you guys enjoyed our first sports segment of the day, talking some college football with Paul. But yeah, now we're gonna get into some Miami Dolphins. As unfortunately, the Dolphins suffer their fifth loss of the season, a 28-27 loss at home to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals win on a last-second field goal, literally the final play of the game. They went on a field goal. They sent us home, heartbroken. It was any loss is tough, but ones like these specifically are extra heartbreaking. And then you think of all the factors going into the Dolphins' favorite going into the Dolphins, like all the positive factors going into the game. It's just unfortunate, that we weren't able to pick up this win. Obviously, Tua came back after that scary concussion he suffered in week 2. We had Dan Marino and Larry Zonka walking on the field for the coin toss. After that, we had Zach Thomas pumping up the crowd at the stadium right before kickoff. But 3 of the all-time great Dolphins were in the building to see the return of Tua Tagovailoa. But that said, Tua did do a great job in his return. He didn't miss a beat. He went 28 of 38 for 234 yards and a touchdown. He was only sacked once in the game, so the offensive line continues to improve, week in and week out, thankfully. They started off the season really shaky. I would say within the last 3 games specifically, they've gotten a lot better. They're nowhere near elite, but they are improving, and that's all we could ask for at this point of the season. But that said, no, fortunately, we just weren't able to get the job done. We started off the game 10-0, and the second half was just, it was a tale of 2 halves, specifically like the offense. They were doing great in the first half, moving downfield, and Arizona just kind of stopped us at one point, and then we kind of just got out of sync on offense, and then specifically on defense, really in the second half. From like the end of the second quarter to the rest of the game, our defense just completely, went downhill. Kyler Murray went crazy. He threw for 307 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also got us on the ground with 19 rush yards on 5, rushing attempts. James Conner added a touchdown on the ground as well. In the receiving department, the rookie, first-round pick, Marvin Harrison Jr., he looked elite in this game. He had 6 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. Then Trey McBride, who's been the best tight end in the league this year, he had 9 catches for 124 yards. Michael Wilson, their number 2 receiver, who I believe suffered an injury late in this game. I'm not sure if it was just cramps or not. I don't remember. But he had 5 catches for 31 yards and a touchdown. And our defense was just completely outmatched by the Arizona offense in this one. We created hardly any pass rush. In the run game, they're running all over us. We couldn't keep up with Kyler Murray. He's one of those guys that he's able to make something out of nothing, specifically because of his speed and his quickness. And we just, unfortunately, we don't have that depth or that talent, I believe. And then also the defensive play calling, the whole season has been questionable. But I've kind of put it aside because the offense obviously has been so damn bad without Tua that we've really been focusing on the offense, right, as a whole. But yeah, the defense, I think we're at a point now where it's kind of scary. What Anthony Weaver's doing here, I don't have much confidence in him. Not that I don't have confidence in the players themselves, but something that he does specifically, and I know this is what he's done and where he comes from in Baltimore and everything he's done in the past. I believe he calls too much zone coverage, and I'm seeing it in general around the whole NFL. More defenses are calling zone. I'm not a fan of zone whatsoever. I'm more of a man-to-man type of guy. I don't understand how you can be confident putting your corners like around 10 yards deep. And if you have a smart offensive coordinator, all they have to do in the passing game, do little, 3-yard routes, 4-yard routes, and they'll just keep moving on field because you're just so damn deep. And then it goes for the run game as well. Your players are so damn deep that it creates easier holes within the line of scrimmage for the run game. And it's easier on the offensive line, for the opposing teams. And it makes it harder for your defensive line, too. You're putting them at a disadvantage to successfully, play well and stop the other offense of the other team. So, yeah, the defense was, really bad in this one. I'm not impressed or encouraged by them at all. But also, offensively, I mean, obviously with Tua back, you see the difference. I'm always encouraged by Tua, and you saw Hill did a little more this game. Waddle unfortunately still didn't really do anything. He had a huge drop in this game. I don't know what's up with Waddle this season. I know obviously Tua's been out. Huntley was playing, Thompson, Boyle, whatever. I know, give the excuses, I get it, but at the same time, look, Tua was back in this one. Him and Hill did not miss a beat whatsoever. He even, connected a couple of times with, like Jonnu Smith. He connected with some of the guys. Obviously, him and Odell Beckham didn't connect in this one, but, I think that's expected. This is the first time Tua and Odell played together in any game. But with Waddle, I feel like something's off, and it's just extra annoying due to the fact that we gave him such a big extension prior to this season beginning. And now I'm really doubting that extension. I'm not feeling good about it whatsoever. The team as a whole looks way worse than what we've looked like in the past 2 years. I think I'm such a big fan of Chris Greer as a GM. I think he's done a great job, but I think I've kind of ignored what he's done, specifically this offseason. Yeah, it looks really bad what the front office has done. The roster does not look good whatsoever. But yeah, Waddle specifically is really worrying me. Obviously, most of these slumps you go on in sports and life, it's all mental. So obviously he's in his head right now. But this kind of started last year too. I don't know, people, obviously, look, I'm grateful for the big plays he makes and all the moments we've had with him in his young career. But even last year, you look back and he had a lot of crucial drops. Same goes for Tyreek Hill. Don't get me wrong, Tyreek ended the season bad, but at least Tyreek's come back this year and he hasn't really dropped passes. But like Waddle, you kind of continue to see that, like him dropping passes. See him getting open as much as he's done in the past. And like I said, we just gave him a huge contract, man. We're spending so much money on Tyreek Hill, on Jalen Waddle, and it's like, is it really worth it? Right now, it doesn't look worth it whatsoever because the team's worse. And the goal here is to win a championship. But you need a whole team. You can't just be a couple guys. And unfortunately, I'm not very comfortable right now with how Waddle's playing. And honestly, this hasn't been put out there. There's been no reports, no rumors. Obviously, we have those of you that don't know, we have the trade deadline coming next week, next Tuesday, and I wouldn't mind if the Dolphins took some calls on Jalen Waddle. I just feel it would be in the best interest of the franchise going forward. I'm not saying, you have to trade him for whatever you can get. No. I'm not saying that. But you got to be open-minded and look around because obviously what's being constructed here right now, this team, we're not going anywhere with the team, how it's currently constructed. And, he has such a big contract. And, I'm sure a team that is at that Super Bowl contending level right now would love to have a guy like Waddle. I don't know, a team that just came to mind. Who knows? Maybe the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, they've done great. They only had, 2 losses on the year. Their offense is good with Sam Darnold. Obviously, Justin Jefferson is that elite receiver. Perhaps, Waddle next to Jefferson, maybe that would be nice. I don't know. Just a random team that came to mind. And to stick in that same trade subject really quick with the Dolphins, I also wouldn't mind if they took trade offers on Jalen Ramsey. And with Ramsey, it's not about his play. Like he's always played hard, even through this, this losing streak and all these rough weeks we've had this year. He's always going to give it his all. And he continues to do. I'm confident in Ramsey. I love him as a player, right? But the thing is, his contract as well is so damn high that I don't know if it's worth keeping that contract around because the team's so damn bad and we're not really going anywhere. But how the team's currently constructed, that it's like, is it really worth keeping these these guys that get paid so much money, right? High paying contracts. And Ramsey's another one. Actually, I was talking to my dad the other day. I think the Vikings actually will be a perfect fit for Ramsey specifically because, yes, their defense has been good. It's exceeded expectations. Obviously, Brian Flores is doing a great job. But imagine them adding a guy like Jalen Ramsey. Not only is he that elite corner, but he has that experience. Obviously, in the Super Bowl with the Rams, he's playing a lot of big games. Even with Jacksonville, he has a lot of good experience. And I think he'd fit in greatly there. And he just wants to win. That's how Ramsey wants to do. So I wouldn't mind if the Dolphins, took calls on them because at the end of the day, we also got to be realistic. We can't just be like, let's just keep them around. Let's just keep them around. And then the same crap keeps happening that we can't win and we keep doing the same mistakes. It's like at a certain point, we kind of got to, be more open-minded, take calls on these guys, see what teams are willing to offer for them. Perhaps they will be better set up for the future. Perhaps, we could pick up a couple of draft picks, maybe pick up some young players that teams are willing to trade in order to get these, Pro Bowl caliber type of players to help them contend for a Super Bowl this season. So, yeah, those are just some thoughts that I wasn't planning on talking about that, but I'm so glad that it came to my head. So, yeah, trade deadline next Tuesday. I hope, I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. The Waddle stuff, the Ramsey stuff. I think everyone should be on the table at this point. When you have a team like this that obviously, like I said, realistically speaking, how it's currently constructed, we're not going anywhere. And we're not that we're not going anywhere. Perhaps, we get lucky, we sneak into the playoffs, but I think no one could confidently say right now that this is a Super Bowl team whatsoever. And I think that should be the only goal for each team every single year. So, yeah, those are just some of my thoughts there. Obviously, another heartbreaking loss. Now we play, go to Buffalo, super tough division over there, division game in Buffalo, and they've owned us, plain and simple. They're our daddy, and we're hoping to knock down Big Daddy coming Sunday and shock the world, shock me, shock the planet. Not just the world, shock the planet. We pull this off on Sunday. I'll obviously be ecstatic. I'll go insane if we beat the Bills on the road. But yeah, so stay tuned. That game's, I think, Sunday at 1:00. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, my thoughts here on the Dolphins and how they're, how things are currently going. But yeah, it's gonna wrap up, the sports talk for today's episode. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this jam-packed edition of the Flame Entertainment and Sports. Once again, I want to shout out and say thank you to my boy Paul for, taking the time out of his busy schedule and, medical school in Pittsburgh. He's doing great things to, talk with us here, give his, expertise and his, opinions and thoughts, right, on how the college football season has been going. And it was just a great time to record with him. It had been 2 years, and I told him right when we finished recording that it felt like no time had been lost, right? It felt like we had been recording yesterday. So it was just a great time. Hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to share it with any people that love college football. I'd greatly appreciate it. Make sure to keep it locked in here on the Flame Entertainment and Sports on Instagram and TikTok at the Flame_ES. Make sure to subscribe here on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen. Make sure to like the video on YouTube. Show love to us on social media. Share it with anyone that you think would enjoy any of these topics covered on today's show. Hope you guys have a happy Halloween. And yeah, till next time, everyone, take care.